Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this FP&A Trends webinar, where today we'll be talking about transforming FP&A trends into real impact. What are those strategies for 2025? My name is Hans Gobin. I am an FP&A Trends ambassador, and today I'll be facilitating this meeting for you. Just so you know, we have well over 300 people joining us from 45 countries or so around the world. So let us see what we've got on the agenda for today. So today we'll be looking at the top 5 FP&A trends 2025. Then we'll move on to look at agile FP&A at PJT Partners. We will then look at technology and AI empowerment. We'll do some conclusion and recommendation, and after that, of course, we have our interactive Q&A session, which we'll move on to do. So without further ado, let me now introduce my panel of speakers for today. So Josh and Eva, if you don't mind coming on the camera, please. So our first speaker for today will be Joshua Baker, who's Senior Vice President at PJT Partners. He's based in New York, USA, where he's joining us from today. And today, Josh will take us through Agile FP&A and what he has done at PJT Partners. Josh, great to have you on the panel today.
Thanks, Hans. Happy to be here. Excited to speak with all of you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Let us meet our second speaker for today, who's Eva van der Zand, Vice President of Product Management at Anaplan, based in Belgium, but is today in New York, where he's joining us from. And today he'll take us through technology and AI empowerment. Eva, great to have you with us today.
Yeah, thanks a ton, Hans, for having me and Josh to work again with you. Super nice. So thrilled to talk about the trends that we see, Hans.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, both. I will ask you to switch your camera off for now whilst I do a bit of housekeeping. So what do we have here? So, of course, we have today, I want to introduce you to our technology sponsor, Anaplan. We all know Anaplan and their fantastic software. Thank you, Anaplan, for making this possible for us today. So, next slide very quickly. Introduction to FP&A Trends Group. As you well know, we have our international FP&A board meetings. Face-to-face have been going since April 2016. We've done 272 so far. And of course, today is our webinar number 170, which we've started since March 2018. We've got lots of surveys we do as well. So we have well over 2,500 plus respondents since 2017. And I'll be sharing with you a link for the 2025 surveys as well. There's lots of papers, 32 of them that we've written, which are fantastic. And we'll be talking about one in particular that we've done with our sponsor Anaplan today as well on the latest trends. Please also join our FP&A Club LinkedIn membership on LinkedIn. And we've got AI and ML committee, as you all know. So these are a little bit of stats around FP&A Trends Group. Please do join us wherever you can. Now, very quickly, some housekeeping, as I mentioned. So today we will have the webinar for 1 hour. We have 2 polling questions. We really want you to participate, for you to tell us what are you doing within your own organization as well. We will be having our interactive Q&A session at the end, but you can ask any questions right from now, anything relevant to what are we going to discuss today. Please make sure you tell us who you want the question to be answered by. You can do so via the chat box that we have. The presentation is available for you to download today, right now, in handouts. You will also be receiving a copy of the presentation and a link to the recording after the meeting, just in case you've had to leave midway. Finally, when I close the webinar, you will get a survey pop up. So please take part in the survey. Tell us how we did. Also tell us what would you like to listen from us in the future? So let me move on now to talk a little bit about or introduce the subject matter we're going to talk about today. So this is a FP&A Trends survey that we've been doing going back quite a few years now, since 2019. If you look at it, what we wanted to achieve here is, or find out, is how much time does FP&A actually spend in value-added activities. So here you're talking insight generation, but much more importantly is driving action, right? Hasn't changed much over the last few years. You can see that only 16% of time is spent driving action. The rest, 65% of our time is spent in information generation, data validation, and collection. We really want this to be flipped on the other side, so we're not spending enough time on this. Now, our papers, our paper that we've done with Anaplan, and there will be a link towards the end of it, shows to us the five key trends FP&A in 2025 and beyond. So what are we seeing there? There's 5 key pillars, 5 key trends. When you look at the paper, you will get all the detail. We're talking about integrated FP&A. We're talking about data-driven mastery, transformative business partnering, AI empowerment, and of course, let's not forget ESG integration as well. So a very quick intro into all of these 5. Integrated FP&A. What is integrated FP&A? We know. And what does the paper show us is how can we move from a static annual plan to a flexible real-time planning that spans across the entire organization. When we talk about data-driven mastery, what are we looking there? We're looking at how we use data to uncover business drivers, improve our forecast, and also to facilitate scenario planning. How can we do that? Now, a little bit about business partnering. So leveraging technology to enable meaningful strategic collaboration. The paper goes into quite a bit of detail. And of course, our speakers will be talking about this as well. AI empowerment. Eva is going to talk quite a bit about how we can use artificial intelligence to enhance productivity and drive information-based decision making. And finally, embedded sustainability into financial planning and strategic priorities. How do we achieve this? Right. Let me leave you with some stats. So here, this is stat from our survey that really shows if you adopt AI and ML, how does that change a few metrics around the organization? The first one there is spending time on higher value activities. That stat goes up by 5% if you adopt AI and ML. The team performing well, that stat goes up by 18% or so, which is really amazing. Large proportions of decisions made using data, 75%, so 13% increase. And finally, percentage of organization that rate their forecast as great or good, that increases by 25% if the organization is using AI and ML. Right, without further ado, let me now move on to our first speaker. So our first speaker today will be Joshua Baker, Senior Vice President at PJT Partners. And today Josh will talk to us about Agile FP&A at PJT. Josh, great to have you again. Over to you. I will disappear.
Perfect. Thank you, Hans, and excited to be here and appreciate you all taking the time to listen to what I have to say. To kick it off, I would hope that our brand is prominent, but for those of you who have not heard of PJT Partners, we are an advisory-focused investment bank. We offer best-in-class advice across 3 main business areas: our strategic advisory, our restructuring and special situations, and our PJT Park Hill Group works within capital markets and fund advisory. We were founded in 2015. We have over 1,000 employees across 15 offices in the US, Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. We are still proudly led by our namesake, Paul Taubman, as well as many senior bankers across industry and product knowledge groups. We've been trusted advisors to many public and private companies and have been involved in billion-plus-dollar large mergers and acquisitions, as well as many prominent restructuring and liability management situations. Given that our business is providing best-in-class advice and differentiated financial advice, from a corporate transformation and FP&A perspective, we pride ourselves on having a premier FP&A function. So as we move to the next slide, what I will do is review some of the areas that we're looking to address in 2025 in order to help us achieve agile FP&A. So let's jump to the next slide and we'll look at our transformation areas. So what we've done here is tried to align the pillars that are featured in the FP&A trends and use those as our guiding points to our transformation and FP&A journey in 25. Now to start, we like to plan the same way that our business operates. And to do that, we feel like we have to modernize some of our operational controls. And we're focused this year specifically on our end-to-end expense process and how that enables some of our visibility and improves some of the overextended resources that we may have. From an FP&A perspective, data is at the foundation of all that we do, and that's our second focus area. And in that case, we're really focused on client data and how we can use it to develop competitive advantages and really improve our framework for the whole firm with data. As Hans alluded to before, business enablement and client coverage and business partnering is something that we're focused on. And what we'd like to do there is really understand how we track opportunities into fees, how we can better access certain areas of the market, and really be a partner to our business leaders. And finally, like many companies, AI is top of mind. It's a conversation we're having consistently with our leadership, with the lowest levels of our organization, the highest levels of our organization. How can we integrate it? How can we use it? And so we're looking to understand where are there tasks that AI can do well, how can it be used across different corporate functions, banker use cases, and then more tactical FP&A and finance. So in order to transform these areas, on the next slide, what I'll do is layer in the FP&A Trends 5 pillars, and those will guide us in our roadmap for 2025. And foreshadowing ahead to where we're going, I think we're one quarter in the books, and we've seen a lot of great things. But to kick it off here, everything we do at PJT, we like to think we lead with sustainability. When we're recruiting, we seek out diverse perspectives and capabilities. And that's why at the bottom of the slide, you see it's kind of a foundation to everything we do. And we truly believe that it builds a better quality footprint and advice portfolio. So to start, integrative FP&A, again, to reiterate, we're focusing on non-comp expenses this year, non-compensation. And we're thinking about how the FP&A team can go out into the different corporate functions, cost center owners, budget owners, and help them design an accountability framework for their budgets. What we're going to do there is we're systematizing key drivers so that they know what they should plan towards, how they should structure their data. And then we're identifying folks in their organization that have this finance first mindset, owner mentality, and guiding them how to plan and think about what FP&A needs to be in their function. To piggyback on that, the data aspect then becomes super important because FP&A is then the consumer of data, but also they are the producers of it. And so as an FP&A and transformation function, we've been working with our CFOs, our COOs, all of the corporate leadership to design what does an innovative maintenance structure look like? How can we apply proper governance and therefore create great infrastructure to provide analytics at the highest order? With business partnering, what we want to do from an FP&A perspective is provide our corporate management, our global management, the best decision-making capabilities. And we do things from weekly performance updates, quarterly earnings prep, and one of the things this year is providing scalable tools and planning models that can then improve actionability. And this is giving real-time feedback to our users and it being able to answer ad hoc questions. Something I can think of top of mind is, how did macro trends impact our restructuring business in 2020 that we may see now in 2025, and try to do a year-over-year comparison between forecast and what we actually saw to provide some insights into where we should position some resourcing. And to close it out, AI empowerment, I think we see the value, we know it's on the horizon, and we're trying to be as front-footed as possible. And areas where we're looking to invest there and are the data synthesis. So if an analyst can process 5 research reports right now, the AI may be able to compile 10, and from that we can then layer that into some of our existing models and analytics and produce better insights and guidance. On the flip side of that, we're also looking to see how we can automate our controls, which ties us all the way back to our beginning piece around governance and framework, and seeing where AI can lift us out of some of the risk management day-to-day grind and really focus on the value proposition that we can. And just to give you a little bit of insight of how we're thinking about this one, because it's such a broad topic, we've really broken up into 3 work streams. How do we get better with our core products of the Microsoft Suite, Excel, PowerPoint, etc.? How do we bring on a best-in-class third party, and that's focused in investment banking? And how do we address maybe a custom-built solution between using strategic advisors and existing partners to create the agents we need specific to our business? So to conclude, on the last slide, I'd like to review some of the benefits that we've seen and give you a little insight into our strategic roadmap for connected planning for the year. So just after 1 quarter, we've seen improved data accuracy across our 3-statement modeling and revenue forecasting. For some of that management reporting that I alluded to, we're able to get those out the door much faster and also expand our portfolio of offerings. So expanding what is in the reporting, how much depth we can go into, what kind of metrics we can provide. And when it's specifically focused on the non-compensation expenses, we've been able to drive much more accountability down to the owners and then work with our CFO to target cost reduction. As I wrap up here, you'll see we've done a lot and we have a lot deployed from an FP&A perspective and the products that we offer. I think our focus area, as you can see in the planning and pre-launch, is getting a little deeper in our compensation and equity and our deferred ownership models, building out our master data tools, and then finally integrating those AI platforms into our day-to-day workflow to be even better. And so with that, I'm going to wrap my section, hand it back over to Hans, and hear what the rest of the team has to say.
Brilliant. Joshua, great presentation. Thank you very much for that. Thank you for taking us through, your plan and adopting the 5 pillars or the showing us where you are as far as the 5 key trends are concerned as well. So that's fantastic. Let us very quickly move on to our first polling question, which is here whilst I launch this very quickly. And there we go. So what is our first polling question? And ladies and gentlemen, I would like you, of course, to vote on this. So how would you describe the level of your FP&A integration within your organization? Planning processes are not integrated at all. first option. Second option, integrated between finance and operational level. Third, integrated between finance and strategy. And fourth, fully integrated throughout the organization. Very similar to what Josh has just spoken about. So, ladies and gentlemen, how would you describe the level of your FP&A integration? Planning processes not integrated, integrated just between finance and operational level, integrated between finance and strategy, or fully integrated. So I will give it another few seconds, and I will end the poll and end it and share it. So what are we seeing? So we're seeing planning processes are not integrated, 24%. Integrated between finance and operational, 47%. Integrated between finance and strategy, 13. Fully integrated, only 16%. Josh, may I ask for a quick insight from you here, please?
Sure. So I think this is very interesting, and it's good to see that the integrations between finance and operational levels are there. I think for us as an organization, that's where we focused first on centralizing it in our COO functions, making sure that operational plans matched our financial plans, and then we were able to expand from there once that was kind of solidified. So I think that it's trending in the right direction, and I think it's aligned to where we were about a year or two ago in our journey.
Yeah, no, fantastic. I think it's great to see only 24% is not integrated. So there's still some work to do to just make sure everybody goes up that ladder, but 24% is really encouraging. So thank you for that, Josh. Now let us move on, close this, and move on to our question. So panelists, if you can please join me, both of you. And the question we have here from Josh to Eva is, how would we go about implementing integrated FP&A within our organization? Josh, if you can join us as well, please, as we go to Eva. Eva, what is your thought on this?
Yeah, I think, and thanks for the question, Hans, Josh. If you talk about integrated FP&A between the operations and finance, I think my advice would be it all starts with a handshake, between the CFO and maybe even the CIO. Yeah. So if you look at the role of a CFO these days, that role is way beyond finance only. Yeah. The CFO is driving strategy, is very instrumental when it comes to strategic outcome of the company. And of course, I look from a technology angle, Hans, and I think no matter where the CFO goes with his thinking and with his ambitions, that has to go in parallel with the ambitions and the drive and the strategy of the CIO. If you have the technology supporting this, quite often the whole debate about this integration is a technology driven debate. Yeah, so if you can get those people aligned and working from the beginning together with a handshake, I think that is almost a sine qua non to go forward.
Fantastic answer there, Eva. Top level support is really required to drive this, absolutely, and you've given us a good example there. Josh, your thoughts, please.
No, I think that resonates with me because that is a needle that we're always trying to thread, basically getting the proper support from technology to align to some of the aspirations we have from a FP&A and transformation function. And I think there's a bunch of pieces converging right now where you have a lot of great SaaS applications. Maybe historically we haven't always used them, or we've been in spreadsheets because we are a newer company. And so from a technology perspective, and the CFO wants to, innovate her function, technology is often forced to kind of step in the middle and step out of the comfort zone. A lot of the new age planning tools require someone to be embedded in the business and be led from finance. And I think that's what we're really embracing here at PJT, and it's been pretty successful.
Thanks very much for that, Josh. I've got a great example years ago where I worked into this organization where just an updated budget would take weeks to do because it was not integrated and everybody had to talk to everybody via emails and Excels and all those kind of thing. And it showed the power that you could do these updates now within seconds if needs be. Some organization are doing it through Keely, the power of tool, the power of integration, etc. So yeah, great, absolutely great thing to have. So where organizations aren't adopting it, now is the right time to do so. And of course, we will talk more in our next set of slides, which is going to come from Eva. So our next presentation is, of course, from Eva van der Zande, who's going to talk to us about technology and AI empowerment. So without further ado, over to you, Eva.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Hans, Josh. And when I came to this webinar, what I did, I prepared a little bit a number of high-level trends that we see when we talk to our customers, that we see happening in the market. And I took it from different angles, Hans. Yeah, I started with the most high-level trends that we see, which you see indicated on the next slide, which are basically three big ones. Yeah, so talking to customers, there's a real need to have planning solutions connected. That need is even becoming critical. And I think if I talk about that statement, what I'm talking about is even beyond financial planning. Think of a customer driving financial planning, demand planning, supply chain planning, workforce planning, production planning, capacity planning, what have you. Yeah, I think it requires less debate that the various types of planning impact each other or are even related to each other. And that is where the need is to really have them connected. What we see, unfortunately, in the market is that there are still many, many, many customers and organizations that have different planning solutions in place, but are not technically linked. Yeah, when something changes in one type of planning, it doesn't technically drive changes in another type of planning. And I think that is very essential. That is a question that customers ask us. Can you have all those types of planning integrated towards each other? From a technology perspective, it depends a little bit on where you look and with whom you work. But we see a number of organizations providing technology that is super nice, but are on separate architectures and platforms. And there are organizations that have all in one. Yeah? So I think that is one observation, Hans. Second observation is that we see, and when I talk to customers, is that the moment there are initiatives or needs for planning, what we see is on the one hand, limited budgets versus on the other hand, a quite strong ask to get a solution in place quickly. Yeah. So my experience is after 30 years being in planning that I've seen many, many planning projects being rolled out, taking months and months and months, and sometimes even years before the first iteration is in place. Why is that? I think we can be honest towards each other. Planning can be complex, regardless of the technology, but a planning process can be quite complex and requires a level of knowledge. Now, what it means is that we more and more see customers asking us, hey, can you, for certain use case, come up with a solution out of the box? Yeah, we call those applications. And applications are for a specific use case. Let's take supply chain planning, are pre-built, yeah, with connectors, with models, with workflows, with automation in there, with dashboards, with reports, and to bring those to the markets, yeah, because those kinds of applications can be rolled out in weeks. Now, do those applications cover 100% of the needs of the customer? No, they don't. No, they don't. But they typically cover 80%. And that helps customers a lot because they are ramped up with a planning solution way quicker and can customize the last 20% themselves. So I think that is a bit of a second trend, Hans, Josh, that I want to call out. Last trend that I see is that specifically coming from the office of the CFO is that those offices tell us, provide me a one-stop shop. I don't want to do just planning, scenario planning, what have you, over any type of planning, but I also want to integrate my consolidation with it. Yeah, let my consolidated actuals drive my planning application, and bringing solutions to the market that have both consolidation as well as financial planning in them, I think is a trend that we see. So Hans, this is more or less a very high level. What I also did on the next slide is I went a level deeper, yeah, and slightly more technical. If you go on the next slide, Hans, you will see a number of additional questions that I see coming. Josh called it out. One back, please, Hans. Sorry, one back. Excuses. Yeah. Josh called it out very nicely. We saw it in the analysis that Hans showed us. 60% of the time of a planning application, regardless of the technology, is done in data prep. Listen to Josh. Finding the data that I need to feed my planning application. Second, connecting to it. Third, transforming, blending, joining it. And number four, pushing it into the planning application that I want in a very orchestrated way. Yeah, well, we call that data orchestration, combined with an additional question to not only load data in a planning application, but also be able to offload that data as a kind of a product into a data lake. That is a key ask I see everywhere. I was on a big event yesterday, 2,000 people over there. I think I got the question 10 times on that day. Yeah. Second one, also one that you called out, Hans, AI-driven workflows and deployments. Again, I restate, planning as a process can be quite complex. So coming in with AI over various angles to make it the consumer and the master planner of a planning application a little bit easier is important. How do we do that? Well, number of things. Yeah. On the one hand, consuming planning data with AI technology that you can just, like in a Google way, you just ask the question, how would a scenario introducing a new product impact my forecast? I can just type in the data and the AI comes with guidance on how you can set it up. Second element is more on the workflow. Yeah. Again, planning can be complex. So how about AI helping you to duplicate a model? How about AI helping you to find the shortest way to set up a scenario planning? Yeah. That kind of technology basically, yeah, approaches a help guide or what have you with a vector technology, starting to find the best, shortest way for you to come up with a tangible result. Yeah? And then the last trend that we see on a more technical aspect, and again, I think Josh mentioned it as well, is that customers are becoming more demand enriching their planning application. Yeah, I call that seamless ingestion of maybe public data. Imagine that I'm planning the inventory for stores in a big retail organization. Well, I might want to click a button saying bring in the weather forecast data or bring in events data, because it can impact what I want to put in my inventory. Yeah? So having the ability to very quickly bring in public available data that is relevant for my planning application is a core need. Yeah? Well, on the last slide, Hans, I called out a number of other things that we see happening everywhere. Yeah? So planning becomes more and more and more available in organizations. More and more organizations drive their strategy based on planning processes. That also means that more and more organizations going beyond and ask us to come up with way more advanced calculations, way more detail in their planning application. So that requires, from a technology perspective, that we try to follow. Next one is continuous planning. Continuous planning means I don't want to plan maybe on a daily level anymore. I almost want to plan real time, live. Whenever happens, I will immediately adapt whatever it is, inventory, forecast numbers, or what have you. So that real time availability of data and planning applications is a second thing that we hear from customers. Third one, again, alluding to the fact that I said, planning can be a little bit complex. So the ask is of customers, simplify the experience in the planning application, make it easier for people. We call that self-service to easily access relevant data in the language that they understand, meaning that we build in business semantics to make it a business user a little bit more easy. Fourth trend is again talking to the planning process itself. Yeah, is to bring in workflow automation. Yeah, the moment you change something in planning, that can immediately trigger multiple things in parallel. Well, you can only handle that with very advanced workflow. So that is why you see us, but also the other companies, bringing a lot of workflow technology in there. And I think the last one that we see, and then I close down, Hans, is that my experience is where planning, if you look back 5 years ago, was a bit exclusive for the bigger organizations. Yeah, with a lot of people, a lot of IT power, what have you. We see planning trickling down to the mid and the smaller markets as well. Yeah, planning a bit for everyone. I think that's the last trend I see, Hans. So that was a bit my view on things, Hans.
Fantastic, brilliant presentation as always, Eva. And what you've left us here with the 5 key points there is really stark. And especially the last one, planning is not exclusive for big companies anymore. It is becoming much more accessible, cheaper, and easier to develop. And the other thing as well is self-serve is another key aspect, is that you don't require that heavy IT drive to be
Yep.
able to do planning anymore. I remember the days where we had 100 people in IT in a medium-sized organization trying to do this, that, and the other, and always reliant on them. So that has taken that away from us, much more accessible. So thank you very much for that, Eva. Let us now go to our second polling question and find out how are people doing their planning actually. So just bear with me for a minute while I run the second polling question. There we go. So if you can please vote, what is the primary technology you use for FP&A in your organization? Amazingly, the first answer there is Excel. Do we use ERP for planning, which is not really a planning tool, but that's the second option. Third option is dedicated FP&A system, which is an EPM, integrated performance management platform. EPM, ERP, everything is integrated into one. So if you can vote, please. So what is the primary technology you use for FP&A in your organization? Is it Excel? Is it ERP? Is it dedicated FP&A system? Is it an integrated performance management platform? I will end this now and we're going to share the results. Thank you very much for voting. So what do we see? 58% are still using Excel, ERP 8%, FP&A system EPM 21%, and 13% are actually using integrated performance management platform. So from your point of view, Eva, what would you like to say on this outcome?
Yeah, well, so first of all, Hans, yeah, Josh and I both know we see a high level of Excel. I don't want to scare off the people in this webinar using Excel that something is wrong. Not at all. We see it everywhere. On the other hand, I might want to plant a few seeds in the people using Excel. So especially remember I talked about connected planning, having various types of planning connected towards each other in a continuous flow. That of course is very difficult with Excel to keep all those numbers up to date, related, and what have you. The second thing that we often see with Excel is that there is especially if you scale up, you get a governance issue. Yeah, so planning is important, is strategic. Excel is a fantastic product, but super flexible, but probably a bit less in place to have a full governed layer where you can deploy strategic models to the operations, what have you. That is probably a bit more difficult. On the other hand, I am not completely surprised. I've seen this in the market all the time. I think it's also good news that we see quite a high level of people in this call using dedicated FP&A systems, Hans. So I think the trend is towards dedicated systems, but that's my observation, Hans.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Great points you made there. We've done this polling over and over again, and the high level of Excel is still there. people still tend to use Excel no matter what they use, which is not a bad thing all in all. But of course, doing a full-blown planning in Excel is very, very restrictive. And we've seen that during COVID where or any other uncertain issue or environment we had where you had to run scenarios, you would not be able to do that very, very quickly. And Excel comes with a lot of other problem as well. But very positive there. There's a lot of opportunity for us to move on to dedicated FP&A system and even integrated planning platforms as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for voting. I'm going to close this poll now, and we will move on to our question. Just before I ask the question to the panel, can I remind you, ladies and gentlemen, we've got some great questions you've sent us. Please keep sending your questions. So we will try and answer some of them today. The rest we will answer all of them via email directly through to your inbox. So please keep sending them. Right, so we have a question here, which is basically, how has FP&A rules changed with the implementation of technology EPM platform, but very definitely with the starting use of AI? So I would like to go to Josh, if he could give us his point of view on this to start off with. So over to you, Josh.
Perfect. I think, to be a little blunt, just to open, we haven't necessarily seen immediate AI impact, but what I will say is the writing is on the wall, and we do believe that within the next 3 to 6 months, we will start getting a lot of scale. And some examples that we've seen so far are a lot of the competitive intelligence work we do from our corporate development side, our macro reporting side. Just being able to consume data in such large scales and then look at our history of data. So whether it be all the revenue forecasting we've done, the deal distribution across different countries, continents, layering those two pieces together would take hours and hours historically, but now being able to query our planning tool, layer in external research, and then consolidate all of that into a concise message. We've done some extensive testing, and we think we have some headway there, and we're looking forward to the promise of AI.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Eva, what are you seeing out there within the organizations you're looking into?
Hans, I really appreciate the answer of Josh. Yeah, so I'd like to call out 4 topics, of which 2 are things that we actually see happening, yeah, and where customers are positive. 2 things that are ramping up. Let me start with the first 2. One of the elements that we really see ramping up is that we use machine learning to start predicting budgets and forecasts. Yeah? And why is that so important? And what is the feedback that we get from the customer? It is not that we better and better and better can predict a forecast number. No, what it does and the value that it brings, it shortens the forecast cycle. Yeah? I have customers who normally have a forecast cycle of 20 days. And with machine learning and AI, you can start predicting forecasts and budgets, and that shortens that cycle to sometimes even 2 days. Yeah. So that is one element. Second element where we really see tangible results is using AI to optimize workflows. Yeah. Using AI to make it simpler. How do I make a connection to a data set? How do I create these transformations? The AI will help you do that. So those are 2 elements that I really see, Hans, that today we get the feedback from the customer, saved a lot of money. Yeah? 2 other ones that are ramping up. Yes, we see it coming in, but it's the use of AI. It's more on the Gen AI part, yeah, where with using NLQ technology, I can just type a message to my planning application and say, hey, I see this metric changing, the margin goes down. What impacts that? Yeah, tell me. Yeah, maybe I don't see it myself. What is impacting that? So that is a technology that we are rolling out right now, and we see being very successful. The 4th one is something that starts getting momentum right now, and that's anomaly detection. Yeah, so I have a planning application, and there are certain numbers completely out of scale. Why is that? What happened? What impacted that? That is anomaly detection technology, and that is slowly ramping up, Hans. So that's my take on it.
Fantastic answers there. Uh, whatever your answer is, there's always more questions based
Yeah,
on those
I
answers.
know.
Unfortunately, we don't have that much time today, but I'm sure we're going to tackle some of them in the Q&A session that is coming straight after this session. So just a quick reminder to the people on the call today, please, we will answer some of your questions, but please keep sending some more. Everything is going to get answered to you by Joshua, myself, and Eva, of course, via email directly through to your inbox. We now to come to our conclusion, sort of, or key takeaway session, where I'm going to ask our panelists for their conclusion on this session. So, Josh, if I may come to you, what would you like to conclude with?
So I think listening to Ever and a lot of the topics that he had discussed, I think one thing that I would like to conclude with is we're going to definitely explore how to better integrate our plans with live data and how do we orchestrate that. I think when we look at 2025, 2026, for AI, machine learning, and just our general analytics, the data is very important for us. And I think to close, I would like to say that's going to be a pinnacle and pillar to our plan going forward.
Fantastic. Great points you made there, Josh. And we've got a very interesting question I would like to ask you both later on anyway. So, good start there. Eva, your
Yeah,
concluding
I'm,
point,
I'm,
please.
I'm with Josh, to be honest, Hans. I'm with Josh. Yeah. Data first, period. Data first. Yeah. So we saw it in your opening statement, Hans. Yeah. So if you see the effort that has to be done in the connectivity, the data preparation, that is huge. Yeah. So if you can focus on that, so we can shrink that down, and the technology is not a blocker there, I think that's a good one. And hear what Josh says, yeah, and what his plans are. He's dreaming about bringing additional data in that makes his planning quality even better. That's again talking into that data orchestration and data transformation play. So my recommendation for the people in this call, Hans, is data first and look at that inflow and that management of the data that you require for your planning application.
Fantastic answers there both. Thank you very much. Let us now move on to our Q&A. And again, as I mentioned, we will have time just for a couple of questions probably for each of our panelists, but please do keep sending your questions. We will answer all of them via emails. So a couple of very interesting questions actually, and you left it with data there, so I may as well start off with data. And this is to both of you, and I'll read it out. Since most of our connected planning is built on top of multi-dimensional data sets, is an empowered FP&A team and following them, the cloud business partners, dependent on the mercy of enterprise data tools? What are your thoughts, Eva?
So I think I think the question is very important. Yeah. So I think it's fair to say if you look at our strategy, Hans, yeah, it's fair to say if you do a kind of a Pareto analysis, thinking on where is typically planning data coming from, we can conclude quite quickly. Yeah, the bigger part, yeah, is coming from either ERP systems, from CRM system, from HR systems. That is, I think that we have the crux of the where the data is coming from. So
Yeah,
what you see technology vendors do, they make sure that they are very well aligned to connect to that type of data in a streamlined way. Also, we do that. Yeah. And whether that is multidimensional or not, that is for us relatively transparent. Yeah, but make sure that you have landing schemas, that's how we call them, yeah, that you can easily connect to the Salesforce, to the SAP, to the Workday, what have you, and bring that data in, understand it in context, and then start transforming it, bringing it into your planning application.
fantastic. What are your thoughts, Josh?
Yeah, I think for us, the next level of planning came from when we would have crashing spreadsheets, which inevitably put a constraint on how much data we could use, to moving into a more robust cloud technology. It was just expansive, and that was everything from share ownership, compensation data, journal entries. We could just leverage that so much more easily. And I think that saved time. And I think it's just the future. If you can have those transformations done in an automated fashion, save an analyst hours of work, and also add more scalability, I think that's going to be game changing. And it's definitely a piece that we would love to bolt on to our existing infrastructure.
Absolutely. And just moving on from there, then the next question is, during your transformation, do you recommend businesses going on their first transformation journey to focus on getting a connected planning tool first or building a robust data lake? What would your thoughts be?
I can start on
Josh?
that one. I have an interesting take.
Yeah.
I think we honestly we had success with the planning tool first. And I know that sounds backwards to what I just said before about data first, but for an organization of our size who is lean, we looked at a planning tool that could also enforce master data best practices. And so we kind of got the best of both worlds, by which we standardize our processes, we standardize the data, and we enabled this connected planning. And then that sold our technology team to build out really the data structure, the data lake, the snowflake, and the like on the backside to help our finance folks really achieve their goals. But we were able to use the planning tool to standardize things. And I think that was a big accelerator for us.
Fantastic. That's great to hear. Eva, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm a touch stronger on this than Josh. Yeah, I definitely think a planning tool first. And you probably think, he's from Anaplan, he's going to say that. But I can tell you the following. It applies to multiple planning technologies. Modern planning technologies, Josh Hans, are equipped and prepared to work with dynamic environments. Yeah. So if my source is A or B, yeah, and it's going to be changed to D, I don't care. We just change the connectivity. That is very transparent technology these days. You can change that, your flows can be maintained, and the data flows again. I'm not saying nobody should build a data lake. Please do. Yeah, I think it's super nice. But you ask for the order where to start. And I think having a proper planning application, which has these days full transformation technology in there, data wrangling technology in there, I think I would always start there, Hans.
Yeah. No, I think I would tend to agree with you as well. Is that what we see is what are you trying to achieve
Yeah.
at the end of the day? What is the information you're trying to give to management? How can you best produce that? If you are now going to look at hundreds of different systems you have, how you pull the data, where you put it into the middle, whereas those sort of technologies are already available within software to pull it from anywhere and everywhere, then it's kind of a catch 22. And also, what we find is that a lot of people are looking at big bang projects rather than smaller projects where they can get really quick wins and then take those projects, amplify on the build on those to get to the bigger organization. Start small is a big thing where people have to start somewhere rather than think, let me get all the data organized first of all. How long is that going to take? And guess what? Organizations are constantly acquiring, getting more systems online. It's a never-ending story. So yeah, absolutely, great points you both made. Thank you very much for that. We have another couple of questions. I think we'd take them very, very quickly. Josh, this one is for you specifically. Truly enjoyed your presentation, Josh, and your success story. Would like to ask if you can provide, and of course we don't have time, a high-level checklist or action plan of your journey you went through. So maybe just a quick mention of, where did you start, a couple of things that you did to get to where you are.
Sure. So this has been a multi-year journey. I would call it approximately 4 to 5 years, if I'm looking at it across the whole spectrum. We started in FP&A designing a model and kind of working with our CFO on all of the strategic plans. And we started at a very high level, and that set the guidance for where we wanted to go. And then each year subsequently, we dug deep into parts of it. So we started with revenue planning as an example, made that a federated process. As we worked down the P&L, we said, how do we address compensation? Worked with HR. Then this year is the non-compensation expenses. And then in the future, we're looking at things like our equity and our deferred compensation. And so we're using that FP&A model as the guidance for expanded planning and integrated planning, and it continues to be that guiding light.
That's a great answer there. And then I just spoke about the Big Bang, trying to do everything at one time and failing at all point. Here's a great example of what you guys have achieved slowly but surely. And it is a long-term project. It's not a kind of straight away big win sort of project. So thank you very much for that. Our final question to Eva. Eva, thank you very much. You talked about machine learning, AI, and all the capabilities. Can you give us a little bit of insight on generative AI that is coming to our software in the next few years and how that is going to help FP&A and finance?
Yeah, so generative AI, like the word says, Hans, generates insights, yeah, based on AI models. Now, what software vendors are doing, including ourselves, if you start building out that technology, you first need to ground it, put it in context. Yeah, I don't want our Gen AI technology. Don't ask that technology what to color of shoes to wear with your new sweater. It's not going to answer. Yeah, it only talks in the perspective of planning. That is also how we train those applications. Where do they unlock? On two high level core things. One, it makes planning insights transparent. So I can just even talk to the AI or type it in a Google way and say, hey, tell me about why that certain KPI moves in a direction that I don't like. What drives that? What brings that? How's it affected? What does that do? So it brings clarity and better insight. Second thing that it does is that the AI starts adding value to certain things. Yeah, so it will, for example, start recommending me to do certain things. Yeah, it could alert me saying, you planned that inventory level at 6 for these and these reasons. You might want to consider 7. And by the way, if you want to know why, click here. So that is what the Gen AI in basic is going to do. And that evolution, Josh and I spoke about it yesterday together, that goes so rapidly quick, Hans, you're amazed.
Yeah, yeah. No, these are great innovations and technologies that are going to come our way. And of course, we see it with ChatGPT, but absolutely, it is coming, and it will be in planning. We will be able to do the Alexa type um, question and answer, but
Yep.
also suggestion as to where you think you may want to go because this is what's happening. So thank you very much both for answering those questions, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for sending them. Keep sending them. We've got a couple of minutes. We will answer them both. But panelists, just stay on the camera. We've got a couple of closing statements to make. So this is what is next. We've got on the 24th, we're looking at optimizing FP&A ecosystem, creating smarter, faster, and more connected processes. So something we've talked about already. So put that in your diary, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, and of course, this is the paper which our webinar was based on today. So with the help of Anaplan and FP&A Trends, we've brought this together. You have the link there. Please go and have a look at it. There's much, much more detail, and of course, quite a few case studies in there as well. Please consume that. Please help us with 2025 survey. It's now come on board, so you can click on the link or scan the barcode, and we will share the whole survey with yourself. So thank you for that. And then finally, to leave you with. Let's thank our technology sponsor Anaplan for making this possible today. But most importantly, let's thank Joshua and Eva for taking time out of their busy schedule to give us all of these insight, your presentation, as well as answering those questions. Thank you very much, panelists. But also, let's thank our audiences, our FP&A people for attending. I hope it's been really good for you, as it's been good for me. And here is a few ways that you can keep in touch with us. Let me just quickly remind you, when I close this, you will get a pop-up feedback session. Please give us some feedback. Tell us how we did, but also tell us what you would like to listen from us in the future. Now, this is the time where I say goodbye. Goodbye to our panelists. Goodbye to everyone that is attending. Thank you very much. And I look forward to meeting you in the next one very soon. Thank you, guys. Have a good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you're joining from. Thank you. Bye-bye now. Have a good one. Bye.